Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Renfrew County Housing Corporation virtual meeting for October 13th, 2021. I'd like to call this to order, and we'll start with our land acknowledgement. As we gather this afternoon, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Wendy, has roll call been taken?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the roll has been taken.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, then I will need a mover and seconder for the adoption of the minutes of the meeting held on September 15th, 2021 and September 29th, 2021. Moved by Councillor Aguirre, seconded by Councillor Reinwald. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We have no delegations at this time, so we'll move on to the Manager of Housing and Homelessness monthly report. And Laura, are you going ahead with that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and members of Renfrew County Housing Board of Directors. Good afternoon. Jennifer is having some computer challenges, so I will do her report. So item number 1, which starts on page 3 of your electronic package, is identifying the CHIPI, which is our Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative, which is the quarterly update. And this just outlines for you what the budget amounts are and how we have spread the budget amount over the 4 quarters. I want to reassure the Renfrew County Housing Board that we are on target to have the full CHIPI allocation spent by the end of the 4th quarter. What is required by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing is that we plan ahead in terms of how we're going to meet the need and, kind of plot out over the period of the year how and where these funds will be best spent. So you can see from the chart on page 4 that we have identified, the areas. Certainly some quarters have more or less spending going on depending on the need. We respond to the need, of course. But at the end of March 31st, 2022, we will have expensed all of the funds that have been issued to us. Item number 2 is the Housing and Homelessness Annual Report for 2020. On an annual basis, Renfrew County Housing puts together an annual report of the Housing and Homelessness Plan that was done, the 10-year plan, which was done 6 years ago. And it's an update just to kind of let you know where we are in terms of the year 2020. I'm sure you will see from there that there are some numbers that might stand out. Of course, we have the pandemic in there that definitely impacted some of our programs and some of the things that we were delivering on. But overall, I think it identifies most of the information that I think is really good to have quick at hand in terms of housing, homelessness, and how we're doing here in the County of Renfrew. Item number 3 is a tenant newsletter. And Renfrew County Housing does provide newsletters on a regular basis to tenants. They're informative. They keep everybody abreast of changes. It's really important when there's a season change to make sure that we highlight some of the seasonal items that take place. And you can see it's colorful, eye-catching. We find a lot of our tenants will put this on their fridge. We make sure every tenant gets one, and we post them in all of our buildings as well on the bulletin boards. Item number 4 is in response to the meeting that we held last month where a request was made that I wanted to kind of look, we were asked to kind of look at the last several years. We identified 5 years in terms of the funding that we've received and how it compares year over year. So you'll see on item number 4, the different funding. And in some of those years, like 2018 to 2019, the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit, the Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative, and the Canada-Ontario Community Housing Initiative didn't exist because they only came into play in the 2021 year. But this will give you an overview of the different funding pots that we received. And again, this was in response to a request that was asked of us last month. And that concludes the general manager's report, or the manager of housing and homelessness for Renfrew County Housing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Lapine. So we will go back to information item number 1, the Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative with the quarterly update report. Are there any comments or questions? I see none. Item number 2 is the Housing and Homelessness Plan and the annual report for 2020. Comments or questions? Warden Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just hoping that this annual report will be included in the community services report going forward to County Council, because it's very impressive, you know, the number of families that we are helping out there. And I think it's very important, actually, that our lower tier municipalities are aware of it as well.
Thank you. And is that just a direction to staff, Paul? Thank you.
My apologies, Chair. I was just taking a note to include that in the County Council report.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is the tenant newsletter. Comments or questions? Seeing none, then item number 4 is the provincially funded housing and homelessness funding allocations and the 5-year comparison. Questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Morrow.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Laura and Jennifer. Thanks for putting this piece in. You know, I just want to acknowledge the fact that these are changing on an ongoing basis, and it's great that you have the titles and the acronyms for them as well, titles of the acronyms, because you know, it's an ever evolving landscape in terms of what's available to us. In fact, I didn't even recognize some of them. I was looking for SIF, the Strategic Infrastructure Fund, and the IAH, the Investment in Affordable Housing, and apparently they no longer exist. So it is great to have this and be updated on this particular information. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I find having the names spelled out helps me as well, because even though I've been chair for, I guess this is going on 3 years now, I still don't know how to remember them. Excuse me. So that concludes that report, and then we will move into the report from Mr. Kaditz on the window replacements. Are you there, Mr. Kaditz?
I'm here. Yes. Thank you, Chair. So in this report, we have there's the two bylaws, and I'll start with the first one. Is for tender 2111 window replacement at Bronx Reynolds Townhouse Complex in Pembroke, Ontario. And Chair, if you'd allow me to read the recommendation. The recommendation that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors recommends to the County Community Services Committee that County Council approve tender 21-11 as submitted by Valley Window and Door, Pembroke, Ontario, for the replacement of 28 family units, windows at the Bronx and Reynolds Townhouse complexes in Pembroke, Ontario, in the amount of $194,164.53. And further, that County Council pass a bylaw to authorize execution of the contract. And I'll just cap the background. So Renfrew County Housing Corporation issued a request for tender for the window replacements at the Bronx and Reynolds family units. Tenders were received October the 5th. These particular buildings were initially constructed in 1976, and the windows were replaced in 1992. These 28 family units consist of 3, 4, and 5 bedroom units. And the results submitted from the tender, it was Valley Window and Doors, again, for the amount of $194,000, $164.53. And the staff, we've reviewed the tender results and confirmed that there are sufficient funds in the budget. So that's the first one. And would you like me to stop there, Chair?
Chair, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I want to start by apologizing that I should have addressed you as Director Cadets. So my apologies for that. And yes, we will deal with this resolution or recommendation. Are there any, can I get a mover and a seconder first to put it on the table? Moved by Councillor Reinwald, seconded by Councillor Love. Comments? Questions? Warden Robinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I notice we're about 20,000 over in this tender, but we make up for it in the next one that we'll be discussing. So that all works out in the wash. I just noticed so that we only have one person putting in a quote, or one company putting in a quote. That's never actually a good thing. I don't think. We'd like to know that we're getting our bang for our buck. Is it again supply issues, or what is the case? And again, I'm wondering too, would we get a better price? I'm not saying that we need to do this, but would we get a better price if we wait and retender, or just move forward? I'm looking for some advice from Mr. Radis, probably.
Through you, Chair, to the warden. Thank you for that question. When this was tendered, there was 3 contractors that showed up at the mandatory site meeting. But in the end, there was only one contractor that submitted a quote.
Thank you for that. Are there any further questions? I know from an earlier discussion I had with you, Kevin, that you did talk about the fact that depending on delivery times for the windows, that this work may have to wait until the spring. So maybe just something you could touch on for committee.
Yes, thank you, Chair. That is correct. Depending on the what supplier that the contractor will use, we understand that it varies from some suppliers. There could be a delay from anywhere from 4 to 8, 9, possibly 11 weeks on delivery of the windows. So the contractor has made us aware of that issue, potential issue or concern.
Mr. Morrow, you had your hand up. Yes, Warden Robinson.
I think he's having another conversation. So I guess my question would be if it's possible that we don't get this job completed before winter hits, then I'm assuming we would be waiting till probably March or April before we were able to do that. Does it make sense to retender in January?
Through you, Chair, back. I guess that's something that could be considered. I know we've had some other issues from some of the other contractors. There's some of these projects, there's not a lot of contractors that are lining up at the door to bid on some of these projects. That was discussed with the staff, and I think the recommendation would be to proceed, even if we have to delay it till the spring. I think it would be probably wise to do that.
Yes, Mr. Morrow.
So thanks for that, Kevin. Just a couple questions for you. And similar to the wardens, First of all, in your experience, this is not the first window job we've done. So I guess my question would be is the price that we received, in your opinion, is it in keeping with what the market is dictating these days and what you're seeing on other jobs and prices or projects that we've done elsewhere?
Yes, that has been reviewed and discussed, and the price seems relatively reasonable.
Okay. Thanks. My next question then, for, if I may, Chair, to Kevin, and that would be with respect to the tender process and the issue, the suggestion from the warden, are we in a position, knowing the change in timelines, that the project may not be completed and that the contractor may not be able to get it done? Let me say it a different way. Were the timelines specified in the tender package, and does that give us an ability to change the tender without putting us in a precarious position legally?
I would have to validate that with the staff, Mr. Morrow.
Councillor Reinwald.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out that we've gone out on other quotes for other items within the county of Renfrew, and we've had situations where we've bid on, from other companies, and we've only received one bid back. So that part doesn't concern me too much. We're following the process, and that's part of the process. And if we need them, we need them. And it seems to me the price is high, but I'm not in that business, so I'll just stay quiet from that point onward. It's roughly around $6,000 per unit per window, I think. So it seems high in my mind, but as far as the process goes, we're following the proper process, so I don't really have an issue.
Director Kelly.
Thanks, Chair, and maybe through you to try to back up Kevin a little bit, just on what we know from window and glass replacement here with our renovation of the building here, and anecdotally and actually in practice, what I know privately, the attainment of glass anywhere in the world right now is incredibly difficult. So I would comment that it would be wise that we go ahead with this, even hoping that we get even early in 2022 that we actually get these windows in hand. Anybody that's done renovations or even tried to shop at any hardware store or building supply store know that windows are backed up 3 to 4 months at a time. So if the proponent, in this case Valley Window and Door, can try to get these windows at some point in this quarter or the next quarter, I think it would behoove us to continue down this process for just trying to get this done in some type of fashion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. And that was going to be one of my questions, was the fact that the price seems high. Is it because of the supply chain issues, which I think you've spoken to, Mr. Kelly? Any further comments on this recommendation? Seeing none, then I will call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So, would you like to go on to the second item, Mr. Gaddis?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the second item is for tender 2114 window replacement at the 260 Elizabeth Street, Pembroke, Ontario site. And if I could just read the recommendation, Chair. Recommendation, yes. Thank you. Recommendation that Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors recommends to the Community Services Committee that County Council approve tender 21-14 as submitted by Valley Window and Door, Pembroke, Ontario, for the replacement of 60 units, which includes the living room and the bedroom at 260 Elizabeth Street in Pembroke, Ontario, in the amount of $453.95. And further, that County Council passed a bylaw to authorize execution of the contract. And again, if I could just give a quick cap on the background. So the Renfrew County Housing Corporation issued a request for tender for the replacement of living and bedroom windows at this location, 260 Elizabeth. Tenders were received October the 5th. The building at this complex dates back from 1997, and these are the original windows. So they've never been replaced. The tenders that were received, again, was from Valley Windows and Doors for the amount of $172,453.95. And the staff, we have reviewed the tender results and confirmed that there are sufficient funds in the budget. And that concludes that bylaw, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kaditz. So I'll get a mover and a seconder to bring this to the floor. Moved by Councillor Love, seconded by Councillor Reinwald. Comments or questions on this recommendation? Gordon Robinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just out of curiosity, I was wondering why we had two different tenders and why it wasn't just combined in one tender to see if we got a bigger bang for our buck. Just curious.
Through you, Chair, to the warden. Thank you for that question. I would have to get confirmation from our staff as to why that was conducted in that manner.
Mr. Morrow, can you answer that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through you to the warden. Typically, depending on the size of the job and knowing what companies are out there and the available resources, we do sometimes divide up the tenders. And I see the economies of scale comment that you're making with respect to a bigger job. However, typically we try to spread the work around a little bit, allowing others to bid on those same jobs as well, creating more opportunities for local companies. Unfortunately, in this particular case, or fortunately for that Valley Windows and Doors, they were the successful bidder on both, but we do try to spread the work out based on who's available out there and what resources local companies have. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for that, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Reinwald, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through you, I'm just wondering, I'm a little bit, maybe I'm not seeing the full picture here, but going back to item 1 recommendation, we're looking at 28 family units at a cost of $194,000, works out to about $6,000 per unit. And then item number 2 is 60 units, I believe, at a cost of $172. That works out to about $2,800 a unit. Am I missing something, or is there the amount of windows more in one than the other? I'm just not sure why there's that much of a difference.
Through you, Chair, to the councillor. Thank you for that question, councillor. I believe the issue would be at the 2 complexes, as we indicated. Some are 2, 3, and 5 bedroom units. So I suspect that the sizes of the windows differ at some of these sites.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Reinwald? Okay, so are there any further questions on this recommendation? Seeing none, I'll ask for the vote then. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And then we have an addendum. Mr. Raditz, would you like to read that too, please? Oh, sorry, Councillor Reinwald. Councillor Reinwald?
Hey, I was trying to unmute myself. I was having problems. I'm just wondering, I'm just going back to items 1 and 2. I'm just wondering for clarification purposes, maybe at county council, once taken to county council, if, you know, there seems to be quite a differentiation in the cost per unit. It might be worth clarifying that a little bit, because I'm a bit concerned with respect to the, you know, the cost per unit between the two. Now, obviously, there's probably a very good reason why, but it's just not, it's not sticking out. And I think it'd be good to do that, especially when it gets to council. Thank you.
Warden Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. And I did see the expression on Councillor Reinwald's face. I think what will be helpful is that if we don't talk units, we talk number of windows that we're going to be replaced in each of those tenders will be helpful, because then the math makes it's a little bit easier and a little bit more obvious as to how much we're paying per window. That's my feeling.
Mr. Kelly.
Through you and maybe with Paul's permission, if I can, that direction is given to staff to clarify the number of windows and or location or something like that per unit, and then we can clarify that in the report, the community services report moving forward. I think that just, I don't think you need a resolution for direction of staff, Paul, but that's up to you.
If everyone's in agreement, we'll just make sure we have that information ready and we'll incorporate it.
Follow up, Mr. or Councillor Reinwald.
You can call me Mister if you want. The councillor will do. I think that'll be very beneficial to everyone, because I can see, you know, things kind of going off this to the edge when we get to county council, and it'd be good to know, like, you know, the windows are going to be different in sizes per, you know, in various rooms, so the costs are going to differentiate. But if you have 28 units, but you got 600 windows, then the cost per unit or per window comes down substantially in comparison to the way that I'm looking at it now. So I think it'd be very, very good if we did something like that. Thank you.
I believe staff will make that those details available for all of county council. Thank you. So, Mr. Raditz, would you like to move on then to our addendum?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have an addendum. Number 7, the resolution tender 2118 front canopy replacement at the Vimy Family Project, Renfrew, Ontario. The resolution that the Community Services Committee recommend that County Council allow for the extension of the contract for tender 21-18 and approve remaining phases to be completed as quote submitted by William and Sons Construction Limited, Pembroke, Ontario, for the replacement of front canopies 4 to 10 and in phase 1 to 5, the amount of $410,000 plus HST. And further, that bylaw 115-21 be amended to include the contract extension. And the background being on September 29th, 2021, the following resolution was approved by Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors, Community Services Committee, and County Council, with the resolution number CSCC 210949. That County Council approved tender 21-18 as submitted by William Sons Construction Limited, Pembroke, Ontario, for the replacement of 3 front canopies, phase 1 to 5, in the amount of $158,000 plus GST. And further, that County Council pass a bylaw to authorize execution of the contract, and further that the remaining phases be considered for an extension with approval of committee, provided that budget and timing permit. A quote was received on October 8th, 2021 from William Sons Construction Limited, Pembroke, Ontario, in amount of $410,000 to replace the existing canopies 4 to 10 at the Vimy Family Project. The contractor has indicated that the replacement for the remaining 7 canopies can be completed by the end of 2021. Staff have reviewed and confirmed that there are sufficient funds to complete this project. And Chair, that concludes this portion.
Thank you very much. And just for clarification, at the beginning of the resolution, the copy that I have, just one sentence at the beginning, and it's that Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors is recommending to Community Services that this recommendation for the canopy replacements move forward. So I just wanted to add that sentence in at the beginning for committee's information. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by the warden, seconded by Councillor Love. Comments or questions? Yes, Warden Robinson.
Thanks. So I'm taking a lot of airtime this afternoon. I had a really good rest last night, so I'm just ready to go. Anyway, I'm just really pleased to see this happen. We were going to do all of them and coming back from county council, recommendation from county council to look at it. It's great that we can get it all done this year. So thank you to the staff.
Yes, I would certainly agree with that. And I'll ask if there's any more questions. Seeing none, then I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So I need a resolution then to approve the or to adopt all the reports as presented. Moved by Councillor Aguirre, seconded by Councillor Reinwald. Any questions on the reports as presented? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Is there any new business? So the date of our next meeting will be Tuesday, November the 9th, 2021. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adjourn, please? Moved by Councillor Love, seconded by Councillor Aguirre. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We will move into our Community Services Committee reports. I will call this meeting of Community Services to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, then can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of the meeting held on September 15th, 2021 and September 29th, 2021? Moved by Councillor Love, seconded by Councillor Aguirre. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we will start with the director, please. Director Lapine.
Good afternoon, members of Community Services. My report begins on page 3 of your electronic package. And the first item in my report is item number 1, which is regarding the grind. The committee may recall back in the June County Council meeting, members of the grind made a presentation to County Council requesting some funding support for administrative and managerial wages and benefits. The amount they were requesting was $142,329 annually. This has been asked to be reviewed by Community Services, and we have taken a staff review of our budgets and all of the funding envelopes that we do have. And what we are recommending to Community Services that we utilize the Social Services Relief Fund, the most recent one, to extend funding for the Grinds After Hours Support Program to March 31st, 2022, which is the end of the funding cycle for the SSRF, or Social Services Relief Fund. So they are currently funded for this service through the Social Services Relief Fund, but this funding ends December 31st. So we're recommending that with the new monies that we extended for the 3 months into the new year. We're also recommending that as long as we continue to receive money through our Chippy program, that we continue to support the after hours motel, hotel costs and food security. That is something that they currently do with us in partnership with our Ontario Works and Housing staff. After hours, put folks that are in need of housing into motels and hotels. In terms of other funding, we have no other funding available through community services. All of our funding that we receive from April 1st, 2021, right through to March 31st, 2022, has been committed. So it is our recommendation, based on what we do have available, that those two funding streams be used to support the very specific programs that the Grind is offering. Item number 2 is the community needs analysis. You will see attached in your package is a document that I spoke about last month in terms of the Robbie Dean Center and the Circle of Turtle Lodge partnering together to do some data collection, survey information with Indigenous peoples in Renfrew County. They've launched this document, very pleased to show that the County of Renfrew is a partner in this, and that we're very excited to share this information. And then when we have access to the data, to be able to use it for program and planning as we move forward. I just want to also give at this point in time a verbal update to committee. As you may recall, the Social Services Relief Fund 4, which we talked about previously, we are still awaiting information from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing in terms of our investment plan that was submitted. I have no further information at this point in time, but as soon as I have information, I will update committee on what the outcome is on that. The next item are bylaws, and I will pass that over to Manager Kevin Raditz with Manager of Real Estate. He can speak to these items, if that's okay with you, Chair.
Maybe what we'll do is go through your information items first, and then we will move into the recommendations.
Certainly, thank you.
So information item number 1 is the report on the Grind. Are there any comments or questions? Warden Robinson, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I totally support the recommendation from Director Lapine. I know that she and her staff have spent a lot of time looking at this. I, certainly acknowledge that the people who operate the Grind and who volunteer at the Grind, their hearts are in the right place. They're trying to help people and assist people, give them a hand up. But at the same time, we only have so many funds, and what it means is, as Director Lapine has indicated, those funds are committed each year. So to fund the Grind $142,000 annually, we are taking that $142,000 away from someone else that's in need. So, I totally support what we're doing here, and we'll continue to assist as much as we can. I would also suggest, however, that maybe we share the homeless and Housing and Homeless Annual Report, and share that with the Grind as well, so they're aware of what we are doing in the community. Sometimes, other organizations, we don't necessarily communicate well enough to let them know that we are doing everything we can for the residents of Renfrew County. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. And maybe just to follow up on that, I think it would be important as well to indicate to the Grind from the 3 social services relief funding applications that, correct me here, Ms. Lapine, I think we were around 2.4 million that we were able to get to help and provide services to the residents of Renfrew County.
Through you, Chair, yes, we received 3 pots of money so far, and it is closer to 4 million in total. And we've absolutely been able to support quite a few agencies with, pandemic and COVID, challenges. And we've definitely in these rounds have supported the Grind. I've certainly, I can get those numbers if needed, but we've definitely provided funding support through the Social Services Relief Fund, very much tied to COVID related expenses, and that's been the criteria with the Social Services Relief Fund, but they have been doing fantastic work in the community, and we've definitely supported them to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bean. Are there any further comments on the grind? Seeing none, then item number 2 is the community needs analysis. Any comments or questions? I see none, so I will turn it over to our housing manager, Mr. Raditz, to provide the or to speak to the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have 2 recommendations, and Chair, if you allow me to read the first recommendation. The tender 21-11 window replacement at the Bronx and Reynolds Townhouse Complex for Pembroke, Ontario. The recommendation that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors recommends to the Community Services Committee that County Council approve tender 21-11 as submitted by Valley Window and Door, Pembroke, Ontario, for the replacement of 28 family units, windows at Bronx and Reynolds Townhouse Complex in Pembroke, Ontario, in the amount of $194,164.53 plus HST. And further, that County Council pass a bylaw to authorize execution of the contract. And the background information is there, so I don't think there's probably any need for me to read that, Chair.
No, I don't believe it is, because it's the very same report as was presented for Renfrew County Housing. The only thing I would ask is that, and staff is probably ahead of me on it, that the additional details be provided for Community Services Committee, the same as they would be for Renfrew County Housing.
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for this recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Gear, seconded by Councillor Reinwald. Any comments? Warden Robinson.
Thank you. So I'm sitting here having sat on Renfrew County Housing Corporation meeting and now the Community Services meeting. And this seems silly to me that we just discussed this and passed this like 7 minutes ago. So I know there is a process we have to follow in order to do this, but I'm wondering if perhaps we could ask Mr. Morrow to explain it, since we are live streaming, and this will be in our YouTube video, so that anyone who's keen enough to watch this committee meeting will understand what the process is.
Thank you,
Chair.
Mr. Morrow.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee and our viewers on YouTube. So we have a separate board that is the Renfrew County Housing Corporation, separate entity that makes recommendations to the Community Services Committee. So we have to follow a process in making the recommendation through to Community Services, who will in turn then make the recommendation to County Council. So to make sure that we follow the appropriate procedure, the recommendation and resolution needs to be read into the minutes at each level. So again, a little bit onerous, but unfortunately, to make sure that we are following our own procedural bylaw, we need to follow those particular steps. Warden, I hope that helps address the concern. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the recommendation? That's carried. Thank you. Mr. Raditz, would you like to continue, please?
Thank you, Chair. We have the second recommendation for tender 21-14 window replacement at the 260 Elizabeth Street, Pembroke, Ontario. Recommendation that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors recommends to the Community Services Committee that County Council approve tender 21-14 as submitted by Valley Window and Door, Pembroke, Ontario, for the replacement of 60 unit windows consisting of living room and bedroom at 260 Elizabeth Street, Pembroke, Ontario, in the amount of $172,453.95 plus HST. And further, that County Council pass a bylaw to authorize execution of the contract. And that concludes the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raditz. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, on the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Love, seconded by Councillor Reinwald. Any further comments on this recommendation? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And then just the addendum. Mr. Raditz, would you like to read that one, please?
Thank you, Chair. Would you like me to read the whole addendum resolution background as well?
I don't think we need the background. It's the same as what we heard in
Okay.
County report. So just a resolution, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Tender 2118, front canopy replacement at Vimy Family Project, Renfrew, Ontario. The resolution that the Community Services Committee recommend that County Council allow for the extension of the contract for tender 21-18 and approve remaining phases to be completed as quote submitted by Williams Sons Construction Limited, Pembroke, Ontario, for the replacement of front canopies 4 to 10, phases 1 to 5 in the amount of $410,000 plus HST, and further that bylaw 115-21 be amended to include the contract extension. That concludes the resolution, Chair.
Thank you very much. You've heard the resolution. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Love, seconded by Councillor Regier. Any comments? Director Kelly.
Sorry, this is a bit out of the norm, but I just need some clarification from committee if I can, and maybe with Paul. So the original county council resolution last September was that the contract would be extended based on committee's approval, which committee is approving with this motion. And yet this would seem that we're still waiting for county council approval of the extension of the bylaw at the end of October, which puts the project a little more delayed. So I'm just seeking clarification on behalf of staff, whether we are clear to continue with the project, the extended project, or not.
Mr. Morrow.
Thank you, Chair, for that fantastic question, Craig. I was really hoping Rose was going to turn on her camera and jump right in on that one. Because she knows, because I know Rose knows the answer.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The bylaw speaks to the tender and the replacement of the front canopies, but it also has a dollar amount of $158,000. So in our opinion, maybe a bylaw has to be amended.
Warden Robinson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director Kelly. I'm looking at the last few words of the resolution from County Council, and it says the remaining phases be considered for an extension with the approval of committee, provided that budget timing permits. So I'm going to go on the side of Director Kelly here and say we don't have to send this to County Council, and that's recorded, just so you know.
I could be flexible on that. I'm Warden Robinson, so.
Councillor Reinwald.
Thank you, Chair. My flexibility is with the warden. It seems a little bit ambiguous to we've already been given permission from County Council to basically carry on. So from my viewpoint, I don't think we're doing anything out of context. We're just carrying on and following the process that was directed by County Council. Thank you.
Warden, follow up.
Thank you, Chair. So I just think we should probably include it in your report to County Council as information that we did what we were asked to do.
Sounds good. And everybody's got a thumbs up. So
Thank you for that clarification on behalf of staff, Chair. I appreciate that.
You're quite welcome. So I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So that brings us then to our Ontario Works Division report, and Ms. Patrick.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Good afternoon, everyone. The Ontario Works report starts on page 10. And item number 1 is an update on the employment services transformation. So this is to give an update on the provincial rollout. As committee may recall, back in 2019, the Ministry of Labour, Training and Skills Development announced that they would be making some changes to the employment services in the province, and they would be identifying through a competitive process one service system manager for each of the 15 economic regions in the province. And they did start this with 3 prototypes back in 2019, which were Hamilton, Niagara, Muskoka, Kawarthas, and Peel region. And this announcement is indicating that the next 4 economic regions to move forward will be York, Halton, Stratford Bruce Peninsula, and Kingston Pembroke. So Kingston Pembroke economic region includes the county of Renfrew. It also includes Hastings County and Prince Edward, Lennox and Addington, and the city of Kingston. So for this region, as well as the other 3, service system managers will be identified by the Ministry of Labour by April 2022. And that will be followed by about a 12-month period of transition and planning, at which time the province and the municipalities will work with this new service system manager that is identified prior to the launch of the consolidated employment services delivery in April 2023. So at this time, there's really no change for our staff. They really won't see any changes until the launch in April 2023. And at that time, they will start to have access to some new technological tools. So there will be some joint action plans and a common assessment tool that our Ontario Works staff, as well as the employment services staff, will be able to access, so that collaboratively they can, both sets of staff can work with individuals along their journey. And certainly Ontario Works staff will work with people as they are, becoming ready for employment and increasing their employability. And when they are employable, they will be referring those individuals to the employment services delivery agent, who will then be working on the job placement and the other pieces when they're closer to being able to work towards employment. So a slide deck is attached that has more information for committee about what we can expect between now and the launch in April 2023. Item number 2 is regarding staff engagement on social assistance transformation. So as I've been sharing with committee over the last several months, the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services is undergoing an extensive consultation phase with a number of key stakeholders to gain further information and input from stakeholders on some of the proposed changes as they're working towards a redesign of the social assistance system. So we held a meeting with County of Renfrew, Ontario Works staff on the 22nd of September to review the slide deck that's in the package attached as Appendix 3, which indicates where the ministry is at in terms of their proposed client state journey in the new vision, and get staff's input on some key and specific areas that the ministry is wanting feedback on. Including staff's input about which service delivery, which parts of our service delivery are delivered well virtually, and which parts staff feel really need an in-person service delivery. So staff had really good feedback as always, and comments that we've shared with the ministry, and certainly on this particular item, our staff really felt that it's important that there be options for clients. There's no cookie cutter approach or one size fits all. There's, many individuals that we've been working with that have really benefited from some of the virtual options. It's alleviated some challenges around transportation and childcare, not having to come into the office, to sign certain documents or application papers. But there's also a lot of individuals, of course, who really appreciate the opportunity to come in and meet face to face with someone who can help them move forward on their journey. So, at this time, the ministry is really moving towards having multiple options available, and we hope that continues so that people can get the services in the way that really works best for them. And the final item in my report is about the termination of the federal financial benefits. So the Canada Recovery Benefit and the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit and the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit are scheduled to end next week. So these federal benefits that are coming to an end, the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services is anticipating a surge in applications for social assistance as some individuals who were in receipt of the federal benefits who have not been able to return to previous employment may be turning to social assistance. So in preparation, for this, the ministry has created or signed an information sharing agreement and created a data match with Employment and Social Development Canada. And so this data match allows social assistance staff to access information about the federal benefit payments that were issued, when they were issued and when they were terminated. And this tool will help our staff to help people who may be transitioning from federal benefits to social assistance, as well as to identify if there was any individuals who received assistance from both programs and to create any overpayments that may be required. So we are keeping a close eye on the numbers. We have seen some increase in application volume over the past couple of weeks, and we will continue to keep a close eye on that. And in terms of the training sessions, we did have all of our 17 caseworkers across the county attend these sessions to learn about accessing the tool and about storage, access and storage of taxpayer information. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Chair.
You're on mute, Chair.
Thank you all for that reminder. So we'll go back to information item number 1, which is the employment services transformation. Any comments or questions? I see none. So item number 2 is the municipal staff engagement on the social assistance transformation. Warden Robinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And it's only been 19 months that we've been doing Zoom, so don't feel bad that you still put yourself on mute. So I just want to say that I have such confidence in Ms. Patrick and her staff to speak on behalf of the people that will require and do require social assistance and don't necessarily have a voice. I'm always a little bit anxious when I see it anything around the word transformation, and that it's there's people here who need the support and don't necessarily have support or choose not to accept support. So I think that going forward, making sure that any of the transformation that does occur is multifaceted, so that folks who need support one-on-one, who require that sort of attention and comfort level, that they do receive it. So I guess what I would say to Andrea and her staff going forward is continue to advocate for the folks that need it. And if that advocacy falls on deaf ears, please come back to the County of Renfrew, and politically we will assist.
Thank you, Madam Warden. If I may, we certainly will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Patrick, maybe just, I know it was in the report where they talked about this service catalog. And I believe part of the strategy moving forward is that any client coming to the office can basically, I think it's a 5-step process, and they can start in the process at any one of the steps 1 through 5, depending on their level of confidence, whether it be with the internet and computers, etc., or maybe they don't need the same amount of life stabilization assistance.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Yes, I think it was in last month's report, the slide deck that was outlined all of the kind of service categories of social assistance. And you're right, Chair, there were 5. first of all, I think, I just may say and certainly appreciate the warden's comments, and we do appreciate having the opportunity to have, some feedback locally, where certainly there's extensive consultation going on with the province, which is great to see, and our staff always have some unique and important feedback to share. So I think with respect to the service journey, what we're trying to ensure is that while the province is working to automate and to streamline some of the areas of social assistance to make it easier for clients, that we just make sure that there's a very streamlined line for people, and that they always have nowhere to reach out when they have questions, and that can be here at the local office. And as you were saying, Chair, whether that be, at the start of the journey, when they're looking for what programs are out there and how to start an application, which may be an automated process, or, following an automated risk-based grant, and then with follow-up with some of their needs. So, certainly trying to do, what we can to make sure that, people's level of service is, continues to be better, and to be as great as what we can offer it, and that nothing is lost, through the involvement of some of the automated processes, that those can just be enhancements, but people don't lose the human touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that additional information. Are there any other comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, then item number 3 is the termination of the federal financial assistance programs. Any comments? Seeing none, then we will move on to the Child Care and Early Years Division report, and Ms. Mulvihill.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, members of committee. My report today begins on page 35, and it is short and sweet for you. Item number 1 is a recommendation that the Community Services Committee recommends that County Council approve that the Child Care and Early Years Integration Services be renamed Inclusion Services. And some of the background, we've been following the provincial language and trying to keep up to date with that, and also trying to keep ahead of some of the way that we deliver services to children with special needs, and really looking at programming that acknowledges and accepts and celebrates each child's individuality and their abilities. I'm not sure, Chair, if you'd like me to stop there or continue on.
We'll stop and deal with these then one at a time. So you've heard the recommendation. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Love, seconded by Councillor Gear. Comments or questions? Councillor Grills.
I'm hoping you can hear me. I really want to thank Judy for this. After years of working in education, it hit me smack in the face when I saw, yes, it's inclusion we want. So thank you, Judy.
You are welcome.
And that was my comment when I saw this in the report as well to Judy, that I think this is long overdue, that it's nice to see it renamed to inclusion as opposed to integration. Any other comments on item number 1? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So Ms. Mulvihill, please go ahead with item number 2.
Thank you, Chair. So the next item is on the bottom of page 35. And the recommendation is that Community Service Committee recommends to County Council the bylaw number 1515 be amended to enter into a wage enhancement agreement with the Arm Prior Heritage Child Care Center for the purpose of receiving wage enhancement grant funding for 2021. So we will be, we're actually in the process of looking at the application, and we will be providing this funding basically sort of retroactive to the beginning of the year. As a bit of a background, wage enhancement funding is for the flow through agency, whatever agencies request and whatever we deem aligns with the operational guidelines from the province, then the province refunds us for that amount. But we are responsible for compiling the applications, reviewing them, and then submitting that allocation to the province. This is a newly opened for-profit childcare center. And this is an agreement only for wage enhancement. It is not an agreement for any other types of funding. And that concludes my description on that one, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Mulvihill. So you've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by the warden, seconded by Councillor Reinwald. Comments or questions? I see none. You did a great job, Judy. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So that brings us to, we have no new business, or is there any new business, I guess is the question. Seeing none, then the date of our next meeting will be Tuesday, November the 9th, 2021. Can I get a mover and a seconder for adjournment? Moved by Councillor Loves, seconded by Councillor Regier. All in favor? That's carried. Wendy, I see you had your hand up. Can I approve those reports after we've adjourned? Yes, Mr. Morrow.
Chair, a little bit unorthodox, but if you get a mover and a seconder, we could adjust the minutes to reflect the process correctly. Again, a little bit unorthodox, but with all the nodding heads of committee, that they would all concur to that approach, then we would make that happen.
So do I need a resolution to?
Yes. You needed to adopt the, which report, sorry, Wendy?
It's the reports as presented. So the three, the community services, the interior works, and
Report as a whole, yes.
the report as a whole, yes.
Thank you.
So can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the report as a whole? Moved by Councillor Reinwald, seconded by Councillor Grills. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.